if you are very good in designing a UI, you very good in visual design, very good in Illustrator, Photoshop, and so on, Sketch, for example. Brush up that one, build a good portfolio of what you have designed. When you went to design UI UX punya interview, you showcase your product, you showcase your portfolio. That is how it works pun. So you guys need to share what have you done in your, even if you don't have any experience. That's why I mentioned earlier just now, some of the UI UX designer, when they come into the interview, they actually share something that is not actually there pun. They enhance something from an existing system. For example, like Shopee, Maybank, they create something out of from that to have an improvement of how it looks at the moment. So that is how you showcase your product. It doesn't mean that you need to have a specific how many years experience in doing a UI UX. Tak ada pun. Even when I do the UI UX interview, the resume that coming in from a vendor, because we have a vendor that actually doing the resourcing punya part, so they will actually forward us the resume. Kita tak tengok pun daripada segi how many years experience semua tu. Kita akan tengok dari segi apa yang dia dah buat, apa experience, apa expertise dia, apa portfolio dia, design portfolio dia akan share, apa case study yang dia dah buat. So that is how you should tackle in terms of the expectation on how you guys want to tackle the interview punya session. I hope that answer your question. That's a very good question anyway.
So we need to prepare a portfolio that what we have done from the university life.
Yep.
To present to the expected company to be interviewed, right?
Yes. So I think this is relates to what I did in my, because kalau ada masa nanti towards the end nanti, I will share you guys a story that I think some of the lecturer here dah tahu pun, I pernah cerita previously. A history on how actually I got into Petronas. It's a very interesting story. I consider myself lucky, but at the same time, I'm being the right place at the right time. So you guys stay in this session. Towards the end, kalau kita ada masa, I will share that one. How my final year project actually got me into Petronas. So the thing that you mentioned just now is correct. Even you guys don't have any experience in working in a company or so on, you guys are fresh graduate kan, try to train yourself to have a good portfolio on what you have done. Even for your FYP, you guys are doing it end to end. You guys do the research, testing, design, storyboard, wireframe. You guys did all that. You need to document that in a good way and present it into the interview session in the future. That is really important now. So you guys don't have the experience, but you guys need to know that you guys have the already have the experience during your FYP, during whatever hobby. If you have the hobby, for example, you guys like to design something semua kan. Put all that in your portfolio, and once you go to the interview, showcase your product. Okay, I think that is very important. Anything
okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the questions. Okay.
There's one more question, but will you like to go for a 5 minutes break or answer that question first?
Should we have one more question and then we go for break?
Okay, so this question is from Eric. He said that on the UX role, there are many different roles with their own job and responsibility.
Yeah.
So his question is that does one person only focus on one role of the UX role, or the person can take multiple role in the UX?
Cool.
And is there like a UX full stack developer where a person take the whole UX role?
Okay.
That's his question.
All right. I think I mentioned this earlier. So thanks for the question anyway. So it actually different with different company in the industry. So I think most of the sorry to say a startup new company, a small company, they tend to have a UI UX that is very that is generalist. They need to have the understanding to do all of those activities together. There's also a company that actually have a big UI UX team that have a specific role inside them. So we call it as a specialist and generalist. So for me, it's good for you to have your career path into a specialist punya role first. At the same time, you try to expand your skills in to be a generalist punya UI UX. So that will give you advantage of um, in the future if you want to expand, if you want to have that career growth. I would say you need to have that kind of attitude. So you don't actually focus on what you're good at, but you need to also understand what the other teams are doing. So that is what one. Another thing is that in my case, so I think is a big thing. So I think we have a specialist in a way. But remember, when you got the opportunity to have that to be inside another project, for example, to be inside another role, go for it. I think that is happening to me as well. So for example, like I'm doing the UX research part. So when the team are expanding and we are currently with the COVID thing, everything is going. So we all need to do a lot of things at one time, and not only whatever that we are good at. So we are lack of resources. So that is opportunity. You should see that as an opportunity that you can expand your knowledge into other skill set also. So that is happening to me. For example, I said to my superior, I said, hey, let me take care of this project. I want to be the UX lead. So take the opportunity, uh, believe in yourself, learn with others, keep a good relationship with your teams, and then I think you should be good. All right. I think that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So we will go for a break for 5 minutes.
Yep. We will continue back at what time?
11:17.
11:17, okay? So 11:17, I expect you guys to be here. I will show you guys a video of my final year project. So what's the story? I will share in the video later on. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so 5 minutes is up. We will continue with our session.
All right. So, okay, can we proceed? You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Right, cool. So, while waiting for others to be back, I think let's just have a quick look into my a video of my final year project, okay?
Naim, kena bagi tahu tahun berapa tu Naim?
2014.
Because at your time, apa yang you buat tu is exceed our expectation. So they all need to 2020 tau. So expectation kita orang sepatutnya more than apa yang awak dah buat.
More than kan?
Yep.
Actually, this is my final year project. During my time is my final year on 2014, right? So Right? So you guys nampak kan tadi video?
Nampak.
Okay. So just nak sambil-sambil tu I nak berkongsi sikit lah. Nak 11:20 dah. Okay. Quick one lah. So for my final year project tu, just to share about a little bit about the story kan. So masa kita nak cari title untuk final year project tu, I actually don't have a clue pun nak buat apa semula-mula kan. Tapi a friend of mine masa tu, dia cakap dengan saya, why not you do something that you are good at. So during that time, I actually I have a I have a very big interest in photography, so I actually know a bit about how the camera works semua. And then I dapat idea untuk buat satu apps untuk macam mana nak belajar fotografi masa tu. And then bila masa tu I define title, masa tu I ingat lagi Dr. Halina, Dr. Ann ada. Macam-macam lah soalan kena. And then one of the key area masa I present tu is actually I want to do it in both platform, which is Android dengan iOS. So Alhamdulillah masa end of the project tu memang I successfully create for both platform, and then dua-dua tu dapat dimasukkan dalam market Play Store dengan juga App Store. Sekarang ni dah tak ada lah sebab I dah lama tak update kan dunia tu kan, so dia dah tak ada lah sekarang. Tapi that is the history of First Click lah, the mobile DSLR guide masa tu. So I think the best thing of my apps masa tu is actually one is it's a cross platform, which is Android dengan iOS. And then another thing that I think good masa tu is the idea of having the simulator. So kalau history about the simulator tu, I dah discuss juga dengan supervisor I masa tu, Cik Fakri. Tapi I tak tahu macam mana nak buat. Tapi I nak sangat buat. I actually jumpa with few of the lecturer as well. I think Dr. Halina, kalau Dr. Halina ingat, I pergi kat bilik Dr. Halina, I tanya pasal dia punya opinion nak buat ni. And then bila I cakap pasal tu je, dia cakap kalau nak buat, kena kalau kamu nak buat apps ni, kena buatnya simulator tu juga. Sebab bila I dah cerita idea tu kan. So I macam usaha juga nak cari idea tu, usaha-usaha. I ingat lagi I dapat idea tu, ada satu malam tu I dapat macam mana dia punya flow tu nak bergerak, and then macam mana logic tu nak berfungsi tau. Jadi I terus craft out dia punya storyboard, macam mana dia punya logic between the numbers semua tu. And then by that week juga I create all the assets, I susun. Lepas tu tiba-tiba I rasa benda tu working, I tambah sekali gamification punya elements dalam tu, which is the star punya tu. So bila orang try to simulator, dia boleh tukar ISO, shutter dengan aperture, dia akan keluar gambar dalam apps tu. So dekat situ kita boleh nilai dari segi kualiti gambar tu, kita akan bagi bintang. So gamification punya elements ada kat situ. Saya add on lagi bila dah final towards the end of the development tu. So which is I think is alhamdulillah I dapat ilham masa tu nak buat benda tu, and then it's a success lah, I would say in my punya pandangan, it's a success and it's a working apps. And alhamdulillah apps ni sampai ke Korea lah masa tu, kita pergi present kat Korea semua, kita dapat silver award masa tu. So that is a story a little bit about my final year project. So towards the end nanti kalau ada masa, saya akan share sikit daripada final year project saya ni, macam mana dia boleh dapatkan saya position dalam Petronas nanti. So kita akan move to the UX process. So I think talking about process, I think I actually mentioned about this earlier. There's a lot of process outside world. So for example, kita ada user-centered design punya cycle, kita ada design thinking, kita ada UX design process for example. Tapi if you can see all those methodology process, it actually dia libatkan satu prosesnya lebih kurang sama, which is Dia kena identify, dia kena analysis, dia kena innovate, kena ideate, and then you design, and then at the end you do testing. I think most of the design methodology, UX punya proses, dia akan have the same structure lah. Dia kena ada ideate, design, lepas tu dia kena testing, right? So when I think with the difference of all these processes, the aim, the objective is still the same. It need to serve the end user. So that is what the user-centered design punya approach come in. So I think this is a very good way how to understand user-centered design. So I share with you this illustration of UI versus UX kan. So if you can see on the left side, the parents saw their baby and with the baby cot punya accessory tu, dia orang nampak benda tu lawa. Dia orang suka. Tapi dalam case ni, who are the end user? Is the baby kan? Baby the end user. So apa yang baby dia experience is not the same with the parents. So that is what the user-centered design, the UX part come in. So you need to understand what the user needs, and then macam mana dia orang fikir, macam mana dia orang behave, macam mana dia orang punya understanding in every aspect of your process. So that is user-centered design. So before I share with you the UX process, just a disclaimer juga, this is not actually a process that we apply in Petronas pun, tapi somehow it is one of the common, I would say common process that I think could be useful in some of the project delivery punya cycle. For example macam agile, waterfall ke apa kan. I think most some of it applies the same. So let me just share. So dekat sini kita boleh tengok kita ada from start dalam project punya cycle tu, UX process in a project. So kita ada pre-project. Pre-project kalau kita tengok kat product punya side tu, kita ada pre-project. Pre-project ni is where kita come in and then kita try to understand the requirement from the user. And then kita move to a feasibility part. Feasibility part ni is the stage that we need to get the buy-in from the user, from the end user, business user ke apa kan. So kita nak dapatkan buy-in tu maknanya kita nak propose kat dia. Dia orang berminat ke tak dengan approach kita, sesuai tak dengan requirement yang dia orang perlukan. And then bila kita dah ada benda tu, kita move to a foundation. So foundation ni is where we detail out what the things that we are going to propose with the ni. So for example macam feasibility, kita create a very high level punya mock-up, and then kita present, kita tunjuk kat dia, okay, dia cakap okay cantik-cantik, requirement dia semua, apa yang dia orang nak semua ada. And then bila kat foundation kita detail out lagi. Kita detail dia punya site map, dia punya information architecture. For example kalau dia tekan menu, can someone mute? Ada, okay. Bila foundation tu, bila IA for example, information architecture, for example bila dia tekan menu tu, apa benda yang akan keluar. And then kalau kita perhatikan, bila kita tekan menu tu, apa yang keluar tu, dia punya sequence tu is actually something that they already have been doing. Kita ada macam-macam method lah yang kita boleh gunakan untuk dapatkan the sequence, quality of the structure dalam information architecture tu. Bila kita dah create user journey, wireframe, screen flow, kita akan pergi ke evolutionary development. Evolutionary development, why we call it evolutionary development? Because it's actually a cycle. So it's a cycle daripada design, kita transfer into a workable punya thing, and then prototype, lepas tu kita code, lepas tu kalau ada apa-apa changes kita pusing balik, kita akan pergi ke design balik, kita akan prototype balik, sampailah kita ni. Sebab kalau dalam agile, for example agile ni, dia benda tu kita ada iteration, kita go by sprint. Kadang-kadang benda tu boleh bertukar lah, berubah ikut sprint. So that is evolutionary development. So what we did is actually we provide the low-fi design, low fidelity design, and then we do a testing punya report, and then we do a high fidelity punya design, and then kita buat prototype, and then kita daripada kat situ, bila kita dah design, kita akan hasilkan satu style guide, ada UI specification dengan assets untuk kita bagi kepada front end developer. Okay, I think that one is evolutionary development. Nanti kita akan go detail in terms of what are the different between low-fi design dengan high-fi design and so on. Okay, and then lepas kita dah design, kita sebelum kita hand over, kita akan buat testing, user testing semua kan, deployment. Dalam deployment tu, apa yang kita buat, kita boleh buat usability testing. So usability testing, there's a multiple way to do it. One of the popular method is interview lah. Kita face to face, kita one by one dengan user, kita bagi diorang guna produk kita, test, especially on the functionality of the system lah. And then kalau semua dah okay, semua apply, kalau tak ada apa-apa feedback daripada user, kita dah boleh go live benda tu. Go live, kita panggil post project. Bila dah go live, kita akan tengok dari sini. Kita tak end lagi benda tu. Lepas kita dah go live, kita dah deploy benda tu, kita masih lagi into that project, which is kita akan buat analysis in terms of the usability. So kita akan tengok daripada berapa banyak user tu, berapa ramai, ada berapa feedback ke apa ke. So dekat situ kita boleh buat usability research, and then kita buat report. So dekat situ saya tadi ada soalan berkenaan dengan dalam setiap role tu, apa deliverables itu, berapa lama masa untuk kita nak buat kan. So first thing you guys need to understand is it's different with different scope, it will give a different timeline. That is one thing. For example, some of the project punya timeline tu very dia punya scope dia sangat huge. Even satu modul pun dia ada pecahan semua ke apa ke. That certainly would need extra time lah. So apa yang kita buat kat bawah tu is actually more like a high level punya estimation. Okay. So for example like dekat kita go to pre-project dengan feasibility apa dia punya kita pergi ke pre-project, feasibility dengan foundation. What are the activity that we can do? There's actually a lot, but one of it, I think you guys, some of you guys may be dah pernah dengar design thinking. So design thinking ni, what actually we do is actually dia a methodology, a step-by-step punya methodology, but it is quite popular nowadays because it's it popular as a non-linear punya methodology. What does it mean by non-linear is actually you can actually jump from one stage to another. So for example, if you proceed until the prototype, suddenly something went wrong, and then you guys can actually go back to ideate punya possibility, for example, and then you guys can even go to the define punya challenge. So just to share with you, this is a very high level lah. I think you guys can search more about design thinking in the website. There's a lot of example. Even some of the sites have templates on what are the activity you can do inside design thinking. There's actually a lot. So empathize, for example, we move into empathize. Empathize ni is more like dalam Melayu kita panggil empathy lah. Empathy ni kalau dari segi empathy, kita ia adalah supaya kita untuk mengesan keadaan emosi orang lain, which is the user, dan kita merasa sympathetic. Sympathetic ni dari segi kita nak faham dia, and then kita nak cuba selesaikan masalah dia. So that is the thing lah, the problem. And then kita nak especially empathize ni for us to mengambil perspektif orang lain instead of ourselves. So it's like macam orang putih cakap, put yourself in someone's shoes lah. So you guys need to understand, it's not about you. Remember, this one is very popular lah, this term. This term is, they call it, it's not about you, it's about the user. So when you are designing a solution, it's not about you, but it's always about your user. So remember the thing that we discussed earlier, user-centered design. User should be the priority in terms of how you want to approach a solution. Alright? So empathize ni, apa activity yang you guys can do is actually you guys can have a persona punya portfolio. So you guys dalam persona ni, apa yang dia boleh buat, saya tak share example kat sini. Persona, you guys can actually have a virtual punya character that could potentially be your end user. So you guys state all the problems, apa dia punya sifat, apa dia punya feeling, apa dia punya minat, semua tu dekat persona tu, and then you guys can have that as your potential end user throughout your design thinking punya process. So and then you define a challenge. So you decide who you want to test out. Okay, daripada persona tu you test, you ambil apa dia orang punya pain points, we call it as pain points, dia orang punya problem. For example, kalau dalam satu app tu they have a problem in submitting a report because there's a lot of information that they need to key in, for example. That is the problem. So daripada situ kita ambil dia punya problem solution tu. Kita dalam tu ada macam-macam lah. Kita ada activity, kita boleh vote. Dari segi situ kita boleh vote mana yang user rasa. And another thing for design thinking ni, the whole process will involve user. So that is I think the best part of design thinking lah. It's not only the internal team, which is the project team, to do the design thinking. It always need to involve the end user. So dalam workshop tu, for example, kita ada end user akan libat sekali. Saya ada gambar kat sini. So ini macam ni aktiviti dia. So daripada kat situ kita boleh tengok user tu try to tulis dekat sticky notes, and then dekat gambar atas tu kita try to facilitate in terms of the user journey, and then dekat bawah tu kita ada voting, and then dekat kanan tu dia orang akan present. So kita akan tengok dekat situ banyaklah idea yang akan masuk, idea akan masuk. Lepas tu bila kita dah define apa problem, kita pergi idea, dia orang akan focus more into apa dia punya possibilities, so potential solution. So dekat situ dia bukan lagi the final solution yet, but we propose lah. Kita propose, kita get the understanding from the user side dengan project team side. Kita ada agreement, kita voting. Lepas voting, kita akan proceed with the prototype. Prototype kita akan design, kita akan mula dengan lo-fi selalu. The good thing about design thinking ni is actually we call it as a fail fast, fail small dengan learn fast. Apa maksud dia is actually when you do a design thinking, you are not actually building the final product yet. Okay, you want to understand the requirement, you want to understand the possibility in terms of how you want to craft out the solution. So that is what I think one of the best thing of design thinking. It allows you to fail fast. So when you ideate a solution, sometimes it will not success lah in a way. In your prototype, you will actually when you go to prototype, you rasa macam this will not work. We need to go to ideate balik, kita kena design balik, kita kena buat balik. So you fail fast tak apa, because you are not actually developing the system yet, and then you fail fast, you fail small. So in a very small scale, you don't actually need to code everything, buat apa satu apps, buat coding, buat logic semua. Sekali you rasa benda tu tak function, so it is a waste of effort, we call it. So you fail fast, fail small, and then you learn fast. Daripada situ you belajar apa yang user nak, apa yang user perlu. So when you prototype your design, actually you come up with a very good mock-up, you think it will work, but still you need to have a testing. So that is the final stage, which is the testing. You test the design. So testing the design ni macam-macam lah. Kita buat front unmoderated punya testing boleh, kita buat front face to face punya testing boleh, kita buat eye tracking. Nanti I show satu example of usability testing punya tools yang kita boleh pakai. So that is design thinking. So itu yang bahagian sini lah, pre-project, feasibility, foundation. So dekat situ bila kita dah dapat a solid foundation of what we are going to build, baru kita move on to evolutionary punya development. So dekat sini kita akan detail out lagi lah. Creative strategist dia akan buat lo-fi. Okay. Just quickly. Okay. Kita akan buat lo-fi design, kita akan buat testing, kita akan buat hi-fi, kita akan buat prototype, kita akan buat style guide, lepas tu kita bagi dekat developer. So apa difference between lo-fi dengan hi-fi ni? I think someone you guys dah tahu juga. So difference between lo-fi dengan hi-fi ni is the left side is the lo-fi, the right side is the hi-fi. Siapa rasa apa bezanya you guys boleh nampak? Boleh share tak?
Jawab baru je belajar last week.
Cool. Okay, go. Apa beza?
Ya, kalau dalam apa tu low fidelity tu dia tak banyak color choices lagi. So design dia macam still nampak macam wireframe ya. Tak banyak tu.
Okay, share dia punya benefit.
Benefitnya untuk low fidelity dia senang nak buat lah, dia cepat lah. So
Okay.
kalau kita ada masalah nak tukar-tukar tu senang lah nak ubah. Jadi
Yes.
tak perlu tukar banyak design dia.
Yes.
Kalau untuk yang high fidelity ni macam untuk final productnya, bila kita dah confirm semua low fidelity punya macam features tu dah diterima oleh user, so baru kita boleh start work on high fidelity supaya tengok final product
Right.
tu.
Okay. Thank you. Same guy ke tadi? So ID
Yeah.
Extra mark lagi. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, betul. I think that is the right approach lah. When I think we have the same problem even in Petronas previously. Kita faham ada certain designer memang dia buat laju pun. Even dia orang buat yang high fidelity ni pun dia orang buat macam buat low-fi ni je, buat kejap, buat cepat. Tapi the thing is for me, we need to educate the business user. We need to them to understand the process. Bukan sebab kita boleh create a high fidelity mockup dengan cepat, kita patut buat high fidelity terus. So nanti kita tak boleh samakan kita punya expertise dengan orang lain. Nanti bila kita dah biasakan user dengan high fidelity mockup, at one point dia punya expectation tu akan jadi tinggi. Jadi bila project lain for example dia cakap kenapa you punya design tak ada colour ke apa ke, sebelum ni I punya project dia orang terus bagi satu design yang cantik. So that will be a problem. There ada clash of understanding kat situ. So that's why even if you are a very good designer pun, you can do the high fidelity mockup ni very quick. Doesn't mean that you need to do the high fidelity at first stage. You need to proceed with the low fidelity. So I think here is our job as well as a UIUX punya person to educate people yang tak berapa tahu pasal UIUX punya proses untuk tahu yang kenapa kita proceed with the low fidelity dulu before kita proceed the high fidelity. So kena ingat tu nanti you guys kalau you guys pergi industri, you guys akan nampak, akan jumpa benda-benda macam ni. Kadang-kadang benda tu jadi macam argument juga tau. Bila designer ni dia terus buat high fidelity, designer ni dia buat low-fi. So which approach is better is actually to do the low-fi dululah. So nanti bila in future kita boleh educate user yang that is the right way. We need to proceed with the low fidelity dulu baru high fidelity. Macam yang tadi share, so ID share tadi. So low fidelity macam I cakap tadi, you fail fast, you fail small and then you learn fast. So daripada sini kalau user minta changes apa-apa, kita boleh change cepat, kita boleh propose kat dia tunjuk. Kalau ada apa-apa changes lagi, kita tukar lagi. Kalau dia punya structure, layout semua tu dah okay, baru kita proceed with the high fidelity. And then bila kita dah ada high fidelity ni, bila kita dah ada multiple screen, kita boleh buat clickable prototype kan. So let me just share you quickly on the clickable prototype sample. Nampak tak? Nampak kan?
Nampak.
Okay, this is actually a side project lah. That is another thing that good for UIUX designer ni. So even dia punya demand tu banyak, you guys boleh buat side project juga. Side project juga means we got a lot of innovators outside semua kan. So they actually need someone to have this good understanding in UIUX. Then they actually will approach you to do design for them. They have all these ideas semua apa, you need nanti dia akan cari UIUX designer untuk buat benda ni. So this could be your side income as well lah. So that is what what I did juga. I do side income on doing this all designs semua kan. So for example macam ni, this is called a clickable prototype. I think you guys belajar juga benda ni dalam ICI. So bila you guys dah ada high fidelity mockup, bila you got multiple screen, it's better for you to have this clickable prototype at first, so that you can have a good experience for the user to understand something that would be closely with their final product in the end. So that is prototype. So it should be something that animated, the flow, the navigation, bila user tengok tu diorang akan suka. That is the purpose of ni lah. For example, kita pergi sini, and then for example ini adalah satu donate punya apps. So kita ada macam Kelantan punya banjir for example, kita nak donate, kita boleh tengok berapa banyak dia punya collection, target 100,000 for example, today hanya ada ni, and then kita boleh actually not to donate duit sahaja, kita boleh donate food pack. For example, kita ambil ni, and then kita dah add to cart, and then kita donate RM20, 50 sen for example, and then success, dia dapat point. Points tu kita boleh redeem dengan something that is apply to our partnership lah. For example, dengan something ke apa kan. Okay, that is one sample lah. Sample on prototype. Okay. Alright. Alright, cool. Okay, kita proceed. The next thing I nak share, bila kita dah create a prototype semua tu, designer tu bila dia dah create all this design punya components tu, dia akan supply all this asset into a design playbook. So this is the current trend, I would say. The current trend in the industry is actually companies will want to have their own playbook. What is the use of playbook ni? Is actually it provide a consistency in delivering your system, apps and so on. And then another thing, it build capability in UI fundamentals. So the basic understanding of the design for your company is all the same tau. So dia punya tu dah solid lah. And then dia satu lagi, yes, dia akan mempercepatkan delivery, means dia save time dengan save cost. And then kita akan reduce complexity dalam development. Sebab bila kita dah design sesuatu benda tu, it not only provide you the specification of the design itself, but also on the coding punya part. Because you can reuse the same component in other project. So benda ni. So this is what we are in, for example in Petronas, we are currently approached with our own design language system, we call it. So in the design language system, we can actually have a basic element of each components in our digital solutions in one website, and then later on bila kita ada next project ke apa ke, the designer will actually get all this design, reuse, and then nanti dekat dalam tu ada code sekali, and then bila pergi ke developer pun boleh easily take those code snippets tu, dia boleh apply terus buat a new system. So that is the current approach. I have this experience to share with you guys. Ada someone dia last time dengan my team, during her interview, she created her own playbook, design playbook. Bila dia tunjuk je design playbook to my manager, dia terus dapat hire, dapat masuk ke dalam my team lah last time. So dia yang sambung belajar ke Germany tu. She's very good in terms of the design, understanding semua. So dia create dia punya own personal playbook lah. So I tunjuk sample kat sini. Apa tu playbook? Okay. I bagi you guys tunjuk. Okay, this one is material design. Material design is actually from Google. So you boleh tengok kat sini. For example, you pergi ke components. Dekat sini ada buttons. Okay, buttons. Okay, dia punya macam mana dia punya interaksi, dia punya tabbing. Kat sini dia dah ada satu spesifik punya design tau. So dekat sini apa yang saya rasa industri-industri kat luar, company-company kat luar nak ada diorang punya sendiri. For example macam kita ada HP, I dengar HP ada diorang punya sendiri, Shell. Lepas tu so dengan adanya playbook ni, satu dia cepat lah. So bila designer nak guna, okay kita dah ada one set of button yang kita boleh pakai. So kita nak pakai yang macam ni ke, macam ni ke, macam ni. And then kita combine dan design. Lepas tu kita bagi ke developer. Developer actually can have this code snippet untuk button ni untuk development. So benda tu akan jadi cepat. Okay. I think that is a good sample of ni lah, playbook. So if you guys have that expertise in coding as well, You guys boleh buat satu site macam tu, HTML punya site dengan CSS semua. You guys define siap-siap apa button semua tu. Kalau you guys showcase that thing during your interview, trust me, it will be a huge benefit. It will be a huge benefit for you to be a UIUX punya designer. Okay. Alright. So until towards the end of the process, kita akan pergi ke deployment dengan post project. So dekat sini kita akan tengok kita ada UX research akan masuk, kita akan buat usability test. So nanti I akan tunjuk sampel kat sini. Usability test is actually a session that involve the user that actually potentially to be our end user lah, participant. So what we do is actually we provide them a task and then they perform the task. We as a facilitator, we try to observe and we interview them as well. When they give the feedback tu yang kita gather as our input untuk kita punya further enhancement of the system. So I think this is quite straightforward on the usability testing, and there's actually a lot of way how you want to do this. And one of the way that I'm actually quite proud of that we did in Petronas is the eye tracking. So this is one of my accomplishment lah. I would say my accomplishment in Petronas, where I actually bring these tools as the first ever use eye tracking punya device in Petronas, and I own that tools actually because I buat benda tu end to end. I study and then I try to find seller from Malaysia, which is very hard to get. Kita ada reseller daripada Malaysia ni quote sampai beratus-ratus ribu pasal benda ni, tapi kita panggil dia orang buat demo semua, and then I survey lagi, and we got a limited budget of course, and then I finally end up getting the tools from the direct company from Sweden. So bila I dah deal dengan Sweden tu, I have it cost around 15,000 RM. 15,000 RM for one device. So actually that device currently being attached to me, and then this is the sample of the session that we did. As you can see kan, yang belah the right side tu kita boleh tengok me myself will be the one that going to control the device, and then someone beside the user, which is on the left side, is actually the interviewer. She will be observing and also asking the question. And then someone yang right on the back is actually someone that she will actually capture the inputs from the user to document all the inputs. And then the left side tu kita boleh tengok, that is the actual session that we did. Bila user tengok setengah UI tu, kita boleh tengok dia punya heat map dia tu. And that thing is actually recorded, and towards the end of the session we can actually extract some of important points from that tools lah. For example, we can actually identify the time spent for each user to complete each task, and then daripada every task yang diorang dah complete tu, kita akan compare with other user. Bila kita compare other user, so contohnya ada user A, user B. User B ni he actually take a longer time to complete that task 1. So bila kita tengok task 1 tu, kita akan tengok dia punya heat map tu. Kenapa dia punya task tu dia lambat nak settlekan task. For example, daripada heat map tu kita boleh tengok the exact point which are the troubles, the pain points of the user. For example, ada setengah tu the normal punya situation, the user can't find the next button, for example, or user cannot navigate to the materials, for example. So that is how we evaluate lah. Okay, daripada situ kita tengok heat map, dia tak pandang pun dekat button ni. So kita akan question ourselves as a designer, should the button be up here or should it be at the bottom? So dekat situ kita boleh analyze. So that is my part as a UX researcher lah juga dekat Petronas. Yep.
Nah, so benda yang eye tracking ni, dia nak analyze lah yang macam you punya software gitu kan?
Okay, dia bukan nak analyze, okay, dia nak analyze software with the help of the user. So user, we will actually, kita bagi dia test kita punya software, kita punya system, and then kita boleh capture the interaction of the user with our design. which is really hard to have without the tools. Macam mana kita nak tahu kan kalau user tu kita suruh dia ni, kita memang kita boleh observe daripada segi dia punya cursor ke apa ke. Tapi kadang-kadang dia static, dia nak cari button dia tu, kita tak tahu dia tengok mana. So dengan adanya tools ni, kita boleh check the exact point, which are the points that user have problem with. So macam saya cakap tadi, kalau dia tak jumpa button tu, kadang-kadang mata dia tengok sini, mata dia tengok sini, mata dia tengok sini, mata dia tengok sini. So kita akan question ourselves, should the button be on the bottom ataupun ke atas. So itu apa fungsi tools ni lah.
So daripada situ improve software kat situ lah maknanya kan?
Yes, kita akan buat, tapi kita tak adalah buat the improvement right away. Kita akan consolidate dia punya findings. Daripada banyak user tu, for example daripada 10 user, 60% having problem, and then kita akan consider that as a priority in terms of the enhancement lah.
Okay, faham.
Faham eh? And then benda tu recorded, kita boleh tengok banyak kali, and then benda tu juga dia record kita punya voice, kita and important thing of doing the usability testing, we need the user to have that thinking out loud. Maknanya every movement dia akan bercakap. Kalau you guys ada free time, boleh tengok usability testing dekat YouTube, ada banyak example. Mostly on the user, dia akan bercakap macam okay, I want to go to the photo section. Okay, dia tekan sini, dia tekan sini. I cannot find dia ni. So nanti kita akan nampak dia punya expression, semua. Benda tu is actually the elements that we as a UX researcher need to observe lah. Kita akan tengok dia punya ni. Kita boleh, even kalau dari segi tools ni, ada satu tu, dia ada degupan jantung. Kita boleh tengok dia punya facial expression. Macam ni kita ada record face kan. So kita boleh tengok dia frowning ataupun dia rasa marah, dia frustration. Kita boleh relate benda tu dengan kita punya the whole system. I think this is very good tools to have as a usability tool lah. Alright. So that is on usability tools. Okay. What else? I think there's a lot of these methods. Type of things that you guys can look into. For example, kita ada guerrilla testing. For example, what does it mean by guerrilla? I just explain a bit lah, very high level on the method kan. Guerrilla testing ni macam kalau kita create a system and then kita just pergi randomly approach to someone, for example outsiders ke apa ke, kita tanya, you guys, you have extra time, can you guys can you look into my system, and then you capture the punya feedback. Ataupun you even guerrilla testing ni, kalau you buat internal punya team pun, they call it as a guerrilla testing. It doesn't involve the exact end user. Okay, rows, tones and buts ni is actually part of one of the activity that can be done in design thinking. So rows, what it means, when you get a feedback, you can actually cluster the feedback into 3 separate entity, which is the rows, tones and buts. Rows, you can have it as a good positive point of your solution. Tones is something that you don't think is a good approach. Buts is something that you think it has a potential in having in your system. So that is rows, tones and buts. You guys can read that also. There's a lot of example out there. And then there's a lot of design terms. For example, you got negative space, you boleh belajar negative space, size and cycle, alignment. For example, like alignment ni kan, if you are a visual designer or even a UIUX designer, you need to have that designer punya eye tau. You kena have that sensitivity in terms of alignment. I punya experience, if you are designing a solution and then you have an internal discussion with your UIUX team, kalau you guys ada buat kesilapan dari segi alignment ke apa, you memang kena bantai. You memang kena bantai dengan you punya teamnya. So benda-benda tu penting lah. Alignment, kalau even sikit pun, even dia punya container atas dengan container bawah, tiba-tiba bawah tu tak align sikit, nanti mesti kena point out with your team. So
aesthetics.
You need to have that pixel perfect punya thinking lah, very OCD punya ni. So alignment, typography, contrast, you have visual hierarchy. Visual hierarchy ni macam if you are designing a system, you need to have the priority in terms of what are the things that you need to be included on the top until at the bottom. So for example, if you are selling a product, you need to have a description of the product first. Takkan tiba-tiba you dekat atas tu contact us for this product apa. You kena ada understanding in terms of what are the product you are selling, and then what are the advantage, benefit, the different with other products, and then you bawah tu you boleh contact us for further engagement or so on. You have a qualitative research, dengan quantitative. Apa beza dia? Qualitative is like you having a face-to-face punya research with a user and interview. Dekat situ kita panggil quality because we can actually observe that one user that using your product, and then you boleh tahu dia punya expression, dia punya detail tu lebih. Tapi dari segi quantitative, dia lebih kepada kalau you are testing in a large group. For example, kita ada banyak kalau you guys boleh search, ada satu website ni dipanggil UX Army. UX Army ni dia buat remote punya usability testing, and even some of this website dia akan provide dia ada community yang akan test out different system at one time. Diorang akan dapat imbuhan lah, diorang akan dapat domain ni, tapi diorang akan provide feedback semua tu. So dekat situ dia punya benefit is you can actually have a huge number of feedback in a short time. That is quantitative. Qualitative is you have a face-to-face punya interaction with the user. You can have a very detailed punya information about how they feel, the expression and so on. And then there's the terms of conceptual design, remote testing, Gestalt principle. Okay, Gestalt principle dengan heuristic evaluation. I think that two terms is very important. You guys can boleh ingat Gestalt principle ni. Try to learn about Gestalt principle. It's very good for you to understand, to train your design punya thinking. So Gestalt principle ni dia ada cakap pasal law of proximity, dia ada pasal alignment, dia punya flow semua tu, dia ada relationship, dia ada dia punya law dalam Gestalt principle that you can look at. Gestalt principle is actually a terms that come out from Germany. Dia orang punya researcher came out with the Gestalt principle. Gestalt tu means form. Form tu maksudnya dia punya layout, dia punya arrangement of something. So you boleh baca pasal Gestalt principle. And another one is heuristic evaluation. Heuristic evaluation, I can say that it actually one of the very frequent punya methods that we done in Petronas. What we did is actually heuristic evaluation. Dia ada 10, if I'm not mistaken, 10 atau 11 ada points yang relates with usability punya testing. For example, dia akan tanya benda ni ada boleh prevent any mistake ke apa ke, and then dekat heuristic evaluation you can read it more nanti. So what we did with kalau heuristic evaluation ni, for example kita ada existing punya system datang kat kita, kat team kita orang, and then dia cakap kita nak enhance dia punya UIUX, very general punya request. So what we did is we do the heuristic evaluation. So from that 10 points we actually jadikan dia sebagai the things that we want to discover inside the testing nanti. So kita akan go through the system, kita akan nampak a certain design flaw ke apa ke, kita akan highlight and then kita akan name dia with which point dalam heuristic evaluation. It's very good for you to have to train your design punya testing, heuristic evaluation. So that is some of the terms or methodology that you can look at lah untuk dalam UIUX ni. Okay, right. I think we are moving towards, we don't actually have time for break kan. Dah lebih. Okay, dah lebih ke 12, sorry. I need to be mindful on the time juga sebab you guys nanti kan tak makan ke apa kan.
Dari soalan boleh?
Okay, I think let's just
Dari soalan boleh?
Okay, boleh.
Untuk design UIUX ni, kan kita kena tengok kita punya end user kita. So end user ni datang pada banyak kategori kan, macam yang children, adult.
Yes.
So saya percaya mestilah dia ada standard dia sendiri kan untuk kategori tu.
Yep.
So adakah standard ni akan berubah dan ramai yang dah pakai teknologi terkini ni daripada awal usia lagi. Macam mana design kita tu akan berubah ke mengikut masa?
Sebab itu okay, terima kasih soalan. I think this is what apa ni, kita punya evolutionary punya approach dalam kita design a system tu. It need to be a continuous punya process. Macam actually it is true, until what time kita ada from even from the design punya perspective UIUX kan, is a very fast punya pace tau, in terms of what are the current trends inside the world. We have sebab itu kalau kita tengok even Facebook, Instagram pun they keep on innovate their ways of doing their apa ni, system tu kan. So that is actually the way they want to tackle all this problem lah, to have the ability to cater all this type of user. Not even, for example, not even from age tau, even from a culture punya background, from a different role inside the company, for example. So benda tu something yang need to be think of every time you want to do an enhancement. So that's why we need to do all these methods all over again. So at one time, every system, at one time nanti akan pergi, okay, what's next? What you need to do? What are the enhancement? So to have that solution to be craft out, you need to have this a lot of apa ni, research that you need to do. I hope that answer your question.
Terima kasih.
Okay, Assalamualaikum Naim.
Salam.
Kita ada banyak soalan dekat chat ni. Naim boleh baca ke? Nak perlu MC baca ke macam mana? Ke Naim boleh tengok? Naim boleh tengok chat ke tak?
Okay, saya boleh tengok.
Saya rasa start dari pukul berapa tadi? Pukul 11 kot. Herrick tu rasanya lah.
Herrick.
Yeah, after Herrick, after the the Nur Dini Huda's question haven't answered.
Okay, ataupun Naim boleh mungkin tadi mungkin semua orang tertunggu-tunggu a special story from you kan. I think before the Q&A maybe Naim boleh share a very good experience lah.
Okay, a quick one lah. Apa ni, sebenarnya I nak share pasal a story on how my FYP relates with my career until now lah. Macam mana I boleh join Petronas. So the thing is, bila saya dah start internship, there's actually a friend of mine memang dah dapat dalam Petronas. Dia orang actually cakap yang Petronas tengah ada this program semua tu, and then dia orang perlukan apa ni, candidates lah. So I actually prepare all my resume semua, I submit dekat Petronas Discovery untuk apa ni, interview. I dapat interview, and then just bila dapat call untuk interview tu, first thing I did is actually I call my father kan. I call ayah, cakap macam Naim dapat interview Petronas ni, patut ke Naim pergi, Naim risau semua ni. Lepas tu ayah ingat lagi ayah masa tu dia cakap pergilah, kalau tak cuba mana nak tahu kan. So I prepare myself, I ingat lagi, sorry just to share, I semayang hajat, memang hari-hari I minta dipermudahkan sungguh untuk proses interview tu. I prepare myself, masa tu kalau ada gambar masa awal-awal tadi tu, I pakai coat, I gunting rambut bagi kemas, I pakai kasut kulit, I pakai tie. Lepas tu I pergi, lepas tu I bawa iPad, I bawa buku sorry, I bawa iPad, I bawa buku final year project tu. So I pergi, buku thesis. Lepas tu I pergi, I duduk kat situ, I dah lepas first interview dah. First interview I dah lepas, I was waiting for the second interview. I was sitting in front of the door into the office lah masa tu, I ingat. Lepas tu suddenly ada someone jalan depan I, and then dia smart, dia pakai coat semua ni, dia macam baru keluar daripada meeting, and then dia tanya I, what are you doing here? Lepas tu I jawab, I was joining the interview, so I waiting for the second interview. Lepas tu dia nampak iPad, dia nampak buku thesis. Dia ambil buku thesis dulu, dia buka, and then dalam buku thesis tu dia nampak lah I punya design apa ni, mobile app semua tu, and then dia tengok ada apa ni, iOS dengan ni. Lepas tu dia I cakap dengan dia, I have the apps inside my iPad. I tunjuk iPad dia pakai. Dia pakai, dia cakap this is really good, dia cakap. This is really good. So and then suddenly ada orang daripada HR tu dia approach kita orang. Lepas tu bila dia tengok dengan orang tu, orang tu cakap dekat HR tu cakap hire him, send him to my room, dia cakap macam tu. Lepas tu I pun macam terkejut sebab I tak kenal dia siapa kan. Lepas tu dia cakap congratulations, this is really good. Lepas tu dia bagi kat I iPad. I tanya kat Aisyah tu siapa? Lepas tu dia cakap itu Izwan Hasli, CEO untuk Petronas ICT, Chief Operating Officer. So dia cakap, so macam mana sekarang ni? Pergilah kat bilik dia. So dia masuk dalam bilik dia, dia introduce me into one of the GM masa tu, Encik Rushdin. Dia introduce, dia cakap I have this guy for you. He's done a mobile app previously semua tu, and welcome him to the team. Lepas tu I salam tangan diorang, I cakap terima kasih semua. Lepas tu I ingat lagi, the thing that dia cakap dengan I masa before outside tu, dia cakap, you want to know why I talk to you just now? Dia cakap because you are looking so smart today with that short hair and shiny shoes. That's why I talk to you today. Dia cakap macam tu kat I tau. And then another thing of course about the iPad, the FYP yang I bawa tu lah. So itu nak share dekat you all macam mana orang boleh appreciate kita punya FYP if it's really good enough for them. So don't take FYP macam ambil lengah. Sebab sorry to say, I ada someone masa during my time yang dia rasa macam dia tak nak bagi all out masa dekat FYP. Dia hebat tapi dia tak nak bagi all out sebab dia kata sebab dia rasa bila dia buat something ni, benda ni akan jadi hak milik FXKTM. For me that is a very wrong punya thinking lah. Sebab dia cakap bila dia buat cantik-cantik, dia buat design yang bagus, benda tu akan jadi hak milik FXKTM. So you should not have that kind of thinking. Please please, you guys should take this FYP very seriously, make it as good as possible for your showcase during your interview, because it could be something that bringing that difference between you with interview candidates 1, candidate 2. Why they choose candidate 2? Because dia bawa iPad, kesungguhan dia bawa iPad, dia ada bawa ni, dia punya preparation bagus, project dia bagus. So in that way lah, you should think it that way lah. So alhamdulillah, memang rezeki I lah. That's why I say earlier, I was at the right place at the right time, the right time. Tapi in the end, it's the FYP that makes the difference. Okay? That's all. Ada apa-apa lagi?
We have a string of questions in the chat.
Can you just quickly, because I lost the last, is it?
Sure.
Okay.
I can just read it for you.
Yes.
Okay, so the first question here is from Nordini Huda. She asked that is it okay if I'm not from multimedia major but I want to apply for UIUX role?
Okay, quick answer, yes. Because I think when I actually joined a conference on UIUX, when they asked this question to the facilitator, which is one of the founder of human factor punya organisation, dia tanya what is the field that very suitable for UIUX. Dia cakap actually the best ni is actually psychology. Dia cakap macam tu, psychology. But the thing is, macam I cakap, tak semestinya. We got a lot of people coming from a different course, major that actually comes into UIUX perspective. And sorry to say, one of our senior juga, dia drop out pun. Dia drop out daripada web design, tapi dia drop out, dia buat company sendiri, and then dia join startup. Masa tu startup tu actually becoming Grab up until now, which is a very big huge company. And then daripada situ dia boleh jadi senior in UIUX. So don't think about your major ini, just do your best about your field. But if you have the interest, try to think of how you want to expand from your current major into the UIUX perspective. There should be a way. If you from the software engineering part, you know how the code works, how the front end development works. That should be one of your key factor that can bring you to the UI/UX perspective. Okay, next question.
Okay, next question from Alia Huda. Will UI/UX field have high job opportunities in the next couple years?
Yeah, like I say, looking at the current demand, yes, because like I say, most of the company right now, especially in Malaysia, they are trying to invest more in UI/UX. So I would say if it's a very, because like I say macam sekarang ni, there's someone I forget who to quote because they are saying that even programming in coding 60 something percent in 5 years, in 60 something percent of application will actually being made automated by a lot of tools. So what can make the difference with this all this approach is actually someone to have that a good mentality of how the UI/UX should work. So if I can relate with that quote from I'm not sure from who, but in 5 years time, there will be a lot of automation punya software creation. So what will make that different is how you want to approach in terms of how the system will interact with the user. So to answer your question, yes.
Okay, so the next question is from Putra Al-Amin. What kind of skills do you need to become an UI/UX designer? Maybe in some software programming language or something.
Okay, like I said tadi, I think someone asking this the similar question about your skill set kan. So I think you have about software, it doesn't matter. But for example, there's a lot of design tools, Sketch, Figma, Illustrator. It's good for you to have understanding in one of those lah. And then it's actually quite similar with each other pun. But it will be a different requirement in some of the projects that you are going to involve later on. So I think for you to have the understanding in terms of how you want to design some of the layout is good enough for you to start your career, your path as a UI/UX designer. Should be good enough. In terms of programming language, if you want to pursue into a front-end UI/UX developer all-rounder punya ni, you need to have the understanding as well lah. But if you want to focus as only on the research punya part, probably you don't actually need that high skill in terms of programming, but you can focus in terms of how you want to evaluate the methodology in some of the tasks that you will get later on. Okay, I think that should.
Okay, so the next question from Chiong. How you find your internship? Can you share something on finding your internship?
Yeah, I say okay. For my internship, since it's a multimedia punya training provider, most of the client is from government agency. It's good for you to have the access to learn from this facilitator. I would say for free as an internship, you need to be there, kan? And then at the same time, I will ask my founder at that time, can I join the session as well? I want to learn also. So what I did is actually, besides of helping to facilitate the session, I actually learned a lot during it. So I learned how to do the right way to do design in Photoshop, Illustrator, even After Effects, and so on. Okay.
Okay, and then next question from Faihana. Is there any time when your project didn't go as planned, and how did you fix it?
Good. I think my answer would be it happens all the time because I think the estimation sometimes is actually does not fit with your requirement at certain stages. When you go towards the end of the process, you will find out that there's actually a lot of loophole you need to look at. So what happened is actually the things, remember this term, you need to prioritize. Prioritize in terms of what should be delivered first. So when you found it didn't go as planned, you need to have that, you need to investigate also lah. You need to have that, we call it as a retrospective punya session, what goes wrong and all that. And then along the way, you will actually find out which problem you need to prioritize in terms of this, which one to solve first. So always remember, lesson learned, retrospective punya session, and then you prioritize, and then you put it into the timeline on how and when you want to fix the enhancement and so on. Okay.
Okay, Okay, so the next question. Apakah antara from Farah Shakila, apakah antara cabaran yang pernah dihadapi semasa melakukan sesuatu projek atau semasa bekerja? Kerana sedia maklum, Petronas merupakan syarikat yang terbesar di Malaysia.
Cabaran I would say when you join a big organization with a lot of project coming in, during my earlier day, the problem that I was facing is actually I'm having a hard time to get a budget for myself in terms of the tools that I'm going to use. So that is the challenge, because it's hard to get the buy-in from your high management that you actually need this kind of tools to do a certain task. But in the end, they actually ask you to do since you can do something with this tool which is free. Why not you just proceed with that tools macam tu. So that is the struggle that I have during my earlier days. And then bila dah along the way, when there is a UIUX punya team semua, when this problem dah tak ada lah. So we got our own budget, and then I ingat I minta MacBook dapat, I minta Adobe Creative Cloud punya access for all application I dapat, I minta Sketch I dapat. But of course we need to have a justification on that lah, of course. But the thing is, it's easier for us to get that approval to get those tools that we need for the UIUX. So that is the earlier days. And then about the project related punya ni, I think nowadays, since we are looking into the DLS kan, the design language system, which is the objective to have a very standardized look and feel on all the application across Petronas. So the challenge is we have thousands of applications in Petronas. So how you want to prioritize in terms of which product you need to look at first, I think that needs to have a very thorough punya process with your team. So, and then the management as well. So we need to prioritize in terms of what we need to evaluate first, what we need to change first, and so on. That is the current challenges, but I think we are going the right path at the moment because we have a specific teams in managing the DLS and also the projects right now. So that I think that answer your question.
Okay, so the next question from Azmi. Masa final year dulu, macam mana Encik bahagikan masa untuk buat assignment, projek dan juga PSM?
I'm not saying this macam nak cakap macam I bagus ke apa, tapi for PSM, it always have that priority inside my mind. Even from the earlier, before we start ni, I always ask myself macam, project ni macam best lah. You do it on your own. Something that is your own show tau. It's time for you to shine in a way. Alright. So you need to have that thinking, and I actually plan what I'm going to do during my PSM earlier, before the FYP even start pun. I dah cakap macam I nak buat something macam ni, I nak buat mobile app untuk ni. Masa tu I dah pakai iPhone for example. Okay, I nak buat yang boleh buat untuk iPhone. Tapi I tak ada idea lagi, tapi I dah ada that thinking lah. And one thing that I dah fikir macam I nak buat a promotion punya video. I want to have that end-to-end punya process, how you want to market it, how you want to test it. Even for my project tu, I actually engage with photography club dekat UTHM. Pergi seorang-seorang masa tu pergi cakap, okay, I ada buat fotografi punya apps, I gather feedback semua, I ada dapat statistik, macam mana nak improve semua and so on. I think that is how you do it, is you plan ahead on what you are going to deliver throughout your FYP punya journey. Okay, that is one thing. So that you don't actually tak payah fikir sangat pasal assignment ke apa kan, because you already have that in place. But I'm not taking this macam saying that I'm really good. At some point I'm actually quite lost. Kalau Encik Fakri ada dalam ni, mesti dia macam, alah Naim, hari tu ada certain engagement dia tak datang semua kan. Memang betul pun. Ada certain engagement dengan Encik Fakri, I tak datang pun apa. Because I quite lost in the middle of the way tu. But I actually came back stronger with the idea of doing the simulator and all that kan. So after that is It's history lah. Okay, next.
Okay, our next question from Adit. He wants to know the most successful project you have done.
Okay, most.
Ni soalan saya tadi. So yang you dah jawab tadi yang apa? Eye tracking tadi kan? Okay.
Okay. Right. Okay. So the next question from Ang William. UI and UX responsible by people from different departments. Is there usually be conflict in the department of an application?
Alright. Okay. So in Petronas, we have a different, I would say, department. We call it as a I was talking about now the current structure in Petronas. We have a experienced employee digital experience punya team, which is someone that is responsible for the UIUX, and we got a DE, which is digital engineering, which is the team that have all these developer, core developer, back-end developer, front-end developer in that team. So what the approach that we want to make sure that there won't be any conflict is we actually knows what are the deliverables from each team. In every engagement with the user, there will be a focal from the DE and also EDX to be coming in to discuss on how they want to approach, with the solution in each of the project. So that is the way they actually sync up together in terms of, okay, we need a designer for this, we need a UIUX to do some research and so on. And then at the same time, hey, we need someone that really good in technical skill to evaluate whether the platform that we are going to do is actually doable in terms of the UI and so on. So that is the one of the scenario that we usually have, but actually being handled with a very frequent engagement between them. So that is how it works out. All right.
Okay. Right. So the next question is from Ikwan. He asking for any tips to decide interface that is suitable with the user scope.
Okay, tips untuk decide. Okay, interface yang sesuai untuk scope user. This is where the research part comes in, I would say. So, like I say, it should not be about yourself on doing the solution. It needs to be something that is the target audience will be the end user. So, if you ask me to have that tips to decide the interface, is of course you need to have that engagement with the user, the end user. So what you can do is, previously I think I mentioned some of the method that you can do. You can do like research, you can do design thinking, for example, with the user and so on. I think that way would actually brings you more close to the user. At the same time, you will understand in terms of what you want to deliver in terms of the interface for the user. So I think that answers your question.
Thank you. Okay, next is Kauji Zun question. He's asking for some suggestion for beginner books for UX design.
I won't say a book because we don't actually, even in our team, we don't actually look into books nowadays, but we actually have a specific place that we want to study our UX fundamentals, which is you can search NNG group. Remember this? NNG group. You search it in the website because I think NNG group is one of the pioneer in terms of the most of the methodology in UIUX. So you can search NNG, I repeat, NNG group. You can see there's a lot of discussion and knowledge that you can read inside NNG group. All right.
Okay. So the next question is from Raz. Adakah prototype yang dibangunkan memenuhi semua requirement? Ada tak requirement yang tak sempat atau tak dapat dicapai?
Okay, so I think this is where the one of the problems that we discussed earlier, kan. So even for prototype, for example, when we go for the testing, kan, some of the requirement tu kadang-kadang tak fit with the user, and kadang-kadang solution dia tu is not applicable in a way, for example. That is where the non-linear punya part comes in, which is you can actually macam cakap fail fast, you fail small, and then you learn fast. So when you actually found out that your prototype is not fulfill the requirement in a way, you can actually go back to the design idea punya part, try to define. If you are running out of time, for example, like I said, if you are running out of time, if it time consuming or other, what you can do is, I repeat, you prioritize. You prioritize in what you want. If you're facing a problem in FYP, even in FYP, instead of failing all of those things that you want to deliver, fail small. You try to identify which one you need to complete first. Which are the core of your FYP that you need to complete. Prioritize. Prioritization is very important, guys. Okay.
Okay, so the next question is from Mizani. Semasa buat FYP project, adakah Encik buat backup plan sekiranya projek yang dirancang ada masalah?
Okay. About my FYP, just to share on the earlier idea. For example, the earlier idea, I don't actually include some of it. For example, like I want to do the simulator punya part, but I actually don't I don't bring it up until towards the end of the development, because I know is during earlier time, I'm not sure if I can do it apa ni cukup masa untuk buat benda tu. So apa yang saya buat is actually saya punya plan is actually try to focus on what you want to deliver first, and then if you want to have that one thing that is bang, that is very big enough, but you are not sure you can do it or not, try to leave it as a, kalau dalam project mode kita panggil is a backlog. Simpan dia dalam backlog dulu, but along the way if you find out macam I think I can do this, I have enough time to do this. I think that is what I did in my FYP. So you need to plan ahead. Again, you need to plan ahead what you want to deliver, the core things that you want to deliver, and then towards the end, bila you rancang tu tak dapat nak dibuatkan tu, and then you need to prioritize lah. Plan out, then kalau tak succeed, you have problem with the timeline, you prioritize. It's like I said, it's okay to not include some of the modules inside your project rather than having all things not complete. Okay.
Okay, so the next question is from Purani. What are the errors or occurs during testing phase?
Error, okay. Error could be a lot of elements. It could be something that is one thing that I learned during my time doing research. First, you need to identify the right user. It's really important. It's because sometimes you can actually confront with a user that don't actually provide you the right inputs during the testing. Okay, so that's why you need to work together with the focal from the business side, for example, from the user from the project side too. And then you discuss on having the right user, someone that extrovert, someone that in Petronas we call it sometimes kita kena someone yang willing juga untuk buat testing tu. Sometimes diorang ni kadang-kadang kena paksa dengan bos ke apa, bila diorang come in, dia actually macam klik, okay, semua okay, suruh bagi feedback form ke apa, semua okay. Bila kita ada this group of user inside of our testing, the results, in the end, the result won't be accurate. So that's why I would say the errors, the most frequent errors that we found out during the testing phase is not to identify the right user. I hope that answer your question. Next.
So the next question is from Natalie. What are the biggest challenges in UX UI design?
The biggest challenges, I think, okay. For biggest challenges, I think let's talk about in project mode lah. In project mode, what are the biggest challenges? One thing is you need to understand the scope and how are you going to expand from that requirement to what the actual solution that could potentially solve your user problem. So in the end, what you need to do is actually you need to understand the scope first, and then you need to validate, have some thinking, and then you validate it with the user later on. Sometimes what happens is the user is actually don't know what they know what they want, but they don't know what they need. Remember that. User don't want, they know, they know what they want, but they don't know what they need, really need. So you as a UI UX person, even you are a UX lead, UX researcher, when you come in, you need to validate that with the user so that they actually know, oh, I want this animation on the apps and so on. When we come in, we try to validate that requirement from the user. They don't actually need that fancy animation pun. That's the challenges lah you need to face in UI UX. When you try to look into the requirement and try to map back to the what the user needs. Okay, next.
Okay, so the next question is from Lau. What's the most used language to design UI out there right now?
Yeah,
heard of using React for some companies.
Yes. Yeah, I think I have the same answer for that as well. So try, if you are interested in doing the UI design, try to invest your time for React Native. It's for me, it's actually quite the demand is quite high at the moment, and most of the company are investing more on the React approach. But you need to understand that some of the complex application that might not suitable in doing React, there might be something else as well. So, something they actually proceed with .NET and so on. Yeah. But I think React Native is one of the highest demand nowadays. Next.
Okay, so the next question is from Tai Sing Yong. What is the most common problem faced during the development phase?
Yeah, I think this one I already answered with the biggest challenges from Natalie too. I think it's the same thing. How you want to validate the requirement from the user with what the user really needs. Alright.
Okay, next question from Siti. Berapa lama jangka masa untuk develop UI UX design yang mampu mencapai apa yang user nak?
Yes, I think this is quite, there's a lot of gray area on this part as well. I think it depends on the scope itself and also how you approach the user to gather the requirement. I think that will actually helps you to achieve what you actually want during the UI UX development. I think jangka masa ni is very general. We can't have that in specific because it depends on the scope of work. But in terms of what we want to achieve, what we can do is actually to have that user-centered approach to make sure that everything you design, the potential solution will actually comply with whatever that user needs. Right, next.
Okay, so the last question from Sabrina. Boleh cadangkan another rare software yang boleh digunakan untuk improve UI UX design?
Okay, I think to improve UI UX design, if you're talking about software, there's not actually much pun. Most of them is a design software, but there's a lot of things. For example, you can learn how to use Sketch, Adobe, and then we have a new things that currently very popular is Figma. If you don't have that that much money to invest, try to invest in Figma first, because I think it have a good fundamentals needs in UI UX punya requirement. Try to venture on Figma, try to learn the tools and try to learn how to create a design semua. At the same time, do some reading, like I mentioned earlier. Try to look into NNG group punya articles. Try to read some of the methodology, some of the law semua tu. I think that should be good for you to start. Alright?
Okay, so we have come to an end of our Q&A session.
Right.
So thank you, Mr. Zainul, for the informative and interesting talk. And thank you everyone for participating in the talk today. Hopefully the talk will be beneficial for everyone. I think we'll have a photo session. No? Yeah.
Before that, maybe I want to say something.
Okay.
On behalf of all HCI lecturers and also from multimedia department lecturers, I would like to express my highly appreciated to Naim.
Thank you.
kerana sudilah to apa ni to involve in this sharing session, and then to share your great and valuable experience with all juniors.
Yep.
I think that is the most valuable things lah. And then even we as lecturers, we can be said, and Naim is one of the most humble student.
Bodoh.
Kalau biasanya kalau konvo, student yang berconvocation tu dapat bunga, tapi dalam kes Naim ni kami yang dapat bunga. So very memang sangat terharulah waktu tu, dan sangat apa ni sangat rasa dihargai. And then Naim juga one of the student yang still keep in touch with us, and then even kalau dia tahu kehadiran kami di sekitar KLCC ke di Petronas Puan Ira,
bolehlah jumpa di Nagus.
Tak pernah sekali pun dia miss untuk belanja kami. That is the most best thing lah. Itu yang kami rasa sangat-sangat rasa dihargai. Then Naim juga from the last batch of PIT with multimedia elective. And then I think this is the most happening batch, I think. Yang kami pernah, one of the most happening batch lah. Yang pernah is very macam mana your relationship with all the lecturers are good. Stay humble, and then seorang dia macam Syafiq Saleh, DJ Ikim, kalau saya masih saya ingin kongsi lah.
Housemate saya tu.
Waktu kelas you all akan apa ni mengiringi lecturer keluar masuk dan keep on asking questions sampai ke kalau waktu tu kelas PRM waktu tu project research methodology, which is equivalent to PSM1. Waktu malam kelas saya waktu tu, mereka akan iring saya sampai ke kereta lah. Sambil that is saya rasa one of the apa ni batch yang sangat-sangat humble dan sangat-sangat ada good relationship with all lecturers. Jadi saya rasa inilah sikap yang saya harap semua student contohi. Kami bukan minta dihormati, kami bukan minta disanjung, tapi cukup bermakna bila kami apa ni rasa sangat dihargai oleh pelajar. Bila you just keep on smiling pun satu rasa rahmat daripada lecturer tu sendiri, rasa dihargai. Dan untuk dah saya fahamlah dengan norma baru, kebanyakan pelajar tahun akhir sekarang pun kita bertemu secara online, tapi saya pun sangat hargai you all. Dan saya harap you lebih aktif dalam penglibatan waktu kelas dan sebagainya sebab lecturer punya feel sekarang is like macam apa ni bersiri. Kalau kita ada buku bersiri bercakap dengan jin, lecturer sekarang dia macam bercakap dengan dinding tau kalau you all tak respon. Jadi bila saya harap nanti sikap-sikap humble yang ditunjuk ataupun yang pernah dideliver oleh you punya senior tu boleh diwarisi lah oleh all juniors. Ikuti contoh mereka, ambil yang mana yang baik dan tinggalkan mana yang buruk. Itu sajalah ucapan daripada saya. Mungkin ada sesuatu daripada Puan Ira sendiri.
Okey, terima kasih Dr. Alin. Okey, terima kasih Naim, terima kasih semua. Tak ada apalah. Itu juga ringkas je saya mewakili moderator lah sebenarnya, host pagi ni. Mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Zainul Naim kerana sudi sekali lagi berkongsi dengan junior-junior, dan mungkin tahun depan sekali lagi Naim, insyaAllah.
Ada boleh.
Dengan adik-adik, dan mungkin fakulti luar sekali lah kita open untuk next session. Okay, just sebab saya ternampak ni dekat bawah ni Faiz, saya nak clarify, betul ke dia tanya NNG tu Nielsen Norman Group? Betul okay, betul. So yang itulah. Okay, boleh tak Naim kena unshare screen?
Okay, kejap saya nak cakap sikit kot. Okay, terima kasih banyaklah pihak FSKTM semua, lecturer, vendor to be the our facilitator hari ni kan. And then thank you so much for jemput saya, walaupun saya tahu saya pun dah berapa tahun dah tinggalkan FSKTM, dan saya pun rasa macam agak terharu juga FSKTM panggil saya untuk ni. And macam saya cakap, FSKTM always have that special place in my heart. Kalau ada apa-apa request apa pun, insyaAllah saya akan ni. Terima kasih banyak-banyak lecturer atas tunjuk ajar, saya tak pernah lupa. Dr. Ann semua saya ingat lagi masa saya define title semua, dia banyak bagi challenges, bagi semangat kat saya. Boleh ke buat untuk UIUX semua ni. Saya masih ingat benda tu. Encik Fakri, terima kasih for joining. I think Encik Fakri have that very strong bonding with me. We have our times during our ITEX, even dekat Korea semua. Ada banyak-banyak cerita masa tu. Saya ada tengok Dr. Farhan tadi. Dr. Farhan saya tak boleh lupa ada satu insiden tu. Dia nak buat test. Sekali saya tertidur, dia call saya banyak kali sampai saya angkat. Lepas tu suruh saya datang juga. Saya tak boleh lupa tu Dr. Farhan. And cikgu-cikgu pensyarah-pensyarah yang lain, terima kasih banyak. Terima kasih semua adik-adik, abang-abang, siswa-siswi. Saya harap anda semua berjaya di masa depan. Ambil peluang anda masa di FSKTM during this university, because I think this should be the starting point for you guys to prove yourself. And this could be that difference into your career movement, career path in the future. Macam saya cakap tadi, always take everything seriously, especially in FYP, because that is your one man show. End to end, you do it yourself. You make it as your portfolio, because when you are graduate, you are going to the outside world as a fresh student. What will make you different with other fresh graduate is with your whatever that you have developed in your FYP. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good success FSKTM and all the students. Okay,
Okay, kita nak buat sesi bergambar lah, Alumni punya bergambar. Mohon on camera, siapa yang line okay, stabil, kita buka kamera jap. Hakim mana Hakim? Yang akan screenshot ni namanya Hakim. Hakim dah standby ni? Ada okay. Kalau boleh each pages Kim, kalau tak dapat grade yang banyak tu. Kita tunggu cue dari Hakim apa-apa pun dia fotografer hari ini. Ambil each pages, awak next page kan, nanti cantumkan. Tunggu dia akan pergi pada next pages. Kita ada 212 orang ni.
Semua daripada HCR punya kelas ke?
Campur.
Oh. Page ke berapa tu Kim? Dr. Nurhalina, Kisha kat belakang. Interprame. Okay, so insyaAllah gambar nanti saya akan share dengan Dr. Nurhalina dan Dr. Nurhalina akan bagilah dekat UIL, saya akan bagi kat Naim juga. So attendance saya dah letak, mohon semua letak attendance. Saya buat by program lah, nanti korang tip BIP ke BIT ke apa nama, metrik dan program. Dan saya akan serahkan juga pada Dr. Nurhalina. Kemungkinan ada yang bukan HCI jugalah, so nanti pensyarah nak kena sort balik lah, tengok mana yang ambil dengan tak. Okay, so
Saya ending kan ke? Ke Favinder ending kan?
Okay. Mungkin Dr. Favinder, you can end up the session.
Okay, so thank you to all the lecturers and even our speaker today for organizing this talk. It was really fruitful for all of us, and I hope that in future we have more talks like this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Naim.
thank you.
Bye.
So, jangan lupa isi attendance. Terima kasih Naim. Nanti kejap lagi saya WhatsApp.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naim.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.